Yo, so let's talk about Hector and the Search for Happiness by, I don't quite know how to pronounce his name, to be honest, Francois Lelord. Cheers. Not green tea today, but you know, much better. So, Hector and the Search for Happiness. Fantastic book. Absolutely fantastic book. Read it. It's amazing. Let's talk about the style of it. The style of the book is just great. It's written in the style of a children's book, so it's a bit kind of, I don't know, it just reminds me like the style of A.A. Milne in Winnie the Pooh. Not really, but you know, it's written to a child. Or, for example, Curious George. It's written clearly to a child, which is interesting because the subject matter is mature. It's about finding happiness, and then throughout that journey we talk about drugs and sex and affairs and love and travelling and religion as well. It comes up, but it's all written as if the author was speaking to an intelligent 7-year-old or 8-year-old kid, which means that the vocabulary is very simple. If any complicated word comes up, it's always then discussed, like, embargo, what is an embargo? An embargo is when, I haven't forgot what an embargo is. An embargo is when a country decides to put restrictions on another country. Anyway, that's discussed in there. It doesn't just go, and there was an embargo, blah blah blah, and you're left with, what's an embargo? It actually explains to it. For me, maybe because I'm dumb, I say that as a joke, but maybe I am. It just helped, so I didn't have to look up any complicated words or wonder what does that mean. You just follow it through comfortably, knowing that everything in the book is going to be thoroughly explained to me as though I was 8, which was fantastic. It was a very, very comfortable read. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I feel like a lot, like a psychiatrist, which was the lead character of the book, is a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist might use a lot of complicated words, have a very wide lexicon, and that could be confusing for a lot of readers. So I feel like this was a really good choice for this book, because you're tackling such a difficult subject matter of happiness and what is happiness, but you're writing about it so simplistically so that every Tom, Dick and Harry can understand the subject matter. And I love that style. When I was a teenager, I used to read those For Dummies books. I read like Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Dummies, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming for Dummies, or Guitar for Dummies, and I always loved those books because they were able to take that subject matter and put it to you so simply so that you could understand it without any of the jargon, without any of the flamboyant words, which I do find are unnecessary. So it was a very comfortable read. I'm talking about the voice of the main character, which was great. There's some, like, we never really learn where Hector's from. We never really learn where he goes. He visits some countries, many towns, and he goes travelling. But the author doesn't say. I mean, we know China. The author says China. But a lot of the time he goes, in the country where Hector came from, and you're kind of go, we don't mention where he came from, it's just you're left to guess. And I think that was a very, very cool and nifty way of creating a voice for the narrator's voice. And I think that as a writer, can learn a lot from this book about how to craft a voice, because it's a very, very pleasant voice to read, and there's lots of nice little fun, I call it gimmicks, which the narrator used in order to make that a fun read. And that was one of them. Like, we're always trying to guess the town because we're given clues as to what town it is, but we're not given the name. So as you're reading, you're, hey, where is he? Oh, maybe it's this town. Maybe it's that country. Oh, I know which town it is. I know which country it is. Something like little puzzles to solve while we're going through the book. And I don't like mysteries. I don't like detectives. Because that's the whole thing. Somebody dies, you've got to figure out who did it. Course of the book. But the course of this book was to find out a theory of happiness, and along the way you're given little clues, just little Easter eggs, I guess, to kind of keep your brain entertained while you're reading, and that was great. I loved it. Let's talk about the lessons of the book and the lessons of happiness. By the way, some really great ones, and if I'm honest, a lot of it I knew, because I'm really into this subject matter anyway, about finding happiness and how to be a happy, life-loving person. I love the theme anyway, so for me, a lot of the lessons I go, yeah, I know that. But anyway, to follow the character through that journey was still very, very fun, to watch the character's development through that learning while the character learned that lessons. And also, there were lessons which I'd never even thought about before, and I go, wow, yeah, I need to think about that, I need to have a think about that. And so there's one part where I'll try not to give it away, but he says, sometimes happiness is not knowing the whole story. So this is a part where he goes through this event, and because of that event he's very, very happy about it, and then afterwards he finds out the truth, and the truth shatters his illusion of what actually happened. And now that he knows the truth, he looks back and he goes, oh, I was an idiot, I didn't know what happened, now I know what happened, I'm actually unhappy about it. So happiness is sometimes not knowing the whole story, and that made me think, because I've always been that type of person to try and find out and analyze and try to understand everything. So for me that was a lesson to say, hey, look, it's okay to just sit back, relax, and not know what's going on. You can't understand everything, and actually it was like ignorance is bliss, isn't it, really? So, but it's just rephrased in a different way that was not a cliche, so I actually thought about it, which was a great thing to think about, that actually sometimes you're happier if you don't know the truth, the facts. So, stop probing into people's lives, stop asking questions all the time, and just be content. What else? Oh, there was a part in the book I wanted to talk about. It was a crime thing. Now, I felt that the whole book was written in a very realistic style, and I could genuinely believe the character's journey, and I could genuinely think, yes, this could happen in real life. I know that that's not fiction, and I know that fiction is fantasy, and but when I read a book, I like to think that it could happen in real life, and so I know it's fiction, but I like to think, oh, maybe this genuinely did happen in real life. I just like that about fiction. I don't know why. I just have a tendency to like fiction that is believable. And so I believed a lot of the book, up until a point where Hector gets kidnapped and taken by some crime lords, and then that shattered the illusion of it being a real thing for me, because I went, oh, obviously this never happened, this is entirely fictional. I still followed it through. It did break the illusion of it, and it did make me go, okay, that's fiction. None of this happened at all, because if that is made up, who knows, probably a lot of other stuff about it is made up, so the illusion broke, but still, the lessons and the philosophies that the book portrays are still very, very, very valuable, and the creation of the plot line and of that crime narrative that Hector went into did make for a fun, enjoyable plot. I will say that. So there's something in that, you know, fiction is fiction, and it can be unreal, but the plot is a vehicle to display and discuss the theme and the philosophies of that theme, and so it worked. At the end of the day, it worked. And I wrote some notes, more notes in my book about it too. Let me talk about that. That the book. Now, being from Britain and growing up in a feminist culture, I always thought, and I always was told, men and women are equal and the same. And the book has a very just nice way of saying men and women are different. They have different brains. We're taken into a lab in the book, and we see that men and women have different brains. And the book puts that in a really, really nice way. And I've come to the conclusion that yes, men and women are very different, and we will never, ever understand each other. And that's perfectly and utterly acceptable. And so, and I thought that this book handled that extremely well. It handled, the narrator was able to tell us that men and women are very, very different from each other, in a non-offensive and just truthful way, and so I really enjoyed that. And then there was one lesson that said happiness is being able to love more than one woman. And as a man, I thought, yeah, like I've had that thought, and so for somebody else to be able to express it, and express it so simply and so openly and so honestly, because that's how this voice comes across, that's how this book is written, and just to put that out there and say happiness might be being able to love more than one woman, just honestly, as a fact, man to man, yes. And so that was relatable, and that made me feel understood, and as a result of that, I bonded with the author of the book, because I was able to say, yeah, thanks for saying that, because I also think it, and I know that that's not strange, and that's part of what it is being a man. So we have those feelings, and so I would definitely recommend this book. Do I think it's a man's book? Yes. It's the character of the lead character is a man, so will you get something out of it if you're a woman? I suppose yes, you will. I don't know what you would get out of it if you were a woman, but speaking as a man, I think it is an incredible book. I think it's a very, very comfortable read, extremely enjoyable, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. You're going to learn about happiness, you're going to learn about the feelings that you have as a man and how normal they actually are, and you're going to have fun, because it's an incredibly fun and enjoyable plot. So enjoy it and keep reading.